Alright guys, so I'm back over at Baker Street again today, and I figure I'll tell you a little bit about relationships when traveling abroad. I think that's a big thing to consider before you go. So, again, I am not the guy I'm certainly not the expert on relationships. I'm divorced multiple times, currently single, but I'll still share my thoughts and you can take them for whatever it's worth to you. So, I have traveled abroad extensively, so I'm somewhat familiar with the process. But, we're all human, and bottom line, we need friends, we need romantic interests, we need companionship. So it is a factor of consideration if you're going to be traveling abroad to teach English that you think about how am I going to handle and deal with relationships. So I'll start off with on the home front. And this is just my personal opinion, but my opinion is if you are currently in a committed relationship in your home country, you want to think especially long and hard about a decision to move abroad. And the reason that I say that is certainly there are people out there that have successfully navigated long distance relationships. But for the most part, they seem destined to fail, and even if they don't fail, they certainly complicate matters. So my recommendation again is if you are currently in a committed relationship and you're thinking about teaching English abroad, talk with your partner about that extensively and put extra thought into it, because of course you can Skype, you can email, you can make phone calls. You may even be in a financial situation where you can bring them out to visit you on occasion. But make no mistake, it will be a difficult process if that's the path that you're going to take. So now the rest of this video is dedicated to everyone who doesn't fall into those categories. So if you are single and traveling abroad, there are some things that you can do in advance to set yourself up for relational success. Now, I'll start off with friendships, because that's key, I think, for anyone. You need that. You need the friendships, the camaraderie. So, in teaching English abroad, if you're going to be attending an in-country, in-class certification course, then you already have an excellent pool. You already have an excellent pool of potential friends right there. So these are people that you can reach out to beforehand and start to get to know with a shared experience, or shared plan of experience anyway. So that's a really good thing. Then, of course, you have your peers. Once you get into country, you're going to have work associates, the staff at the learning center or the school where you'll be teaching. And even before you get employed, you're going to have the staff of, if you're going through a certification program, you're going to have the staff of the school that you're attending. So I say touch base ahead of time with your instructors, with the staff of the organization you're going to be seeking certification from. Talk to other teachers who are already in country and try and develop some friendships from there. And just reach out to everyone that you can think of that you're going to be associated with once you get in country. And if you do that beforehand, you can pre-establish. That's a very loud motorcycle. Anyway, you can pre-establish some pretty good tentative friendships before you even head out of your home country, which is it's an awesome thing. So now, when it comes to romantic relationships, that's an entirely different animal. So the biggest thing in my mind about romantic relationships abroad is protecting yourself from exploitation, because it's a very real thing. A lot of countries see foreigners as an opportunity for money, and they look at you as a wallet, and that's their sole focus. I'm not saying that's everyone, not stereotyping for every country. I'm just saying in my experience in general, That's a very real concern to have, and you have to be quite careful. So that's the biggest thing to take into consideration for romantic relationships. But the good news is there's some things that you can do ahead of time to protect yourself and to make the process a little bit easier. So, for example, dating websites are now a common part of our life. They exist in every country, for every age group, for every personality type. They're everywhere. So I recommend that if you decide that you're going to teach abroad and you're single and you're interested in maybe developing some relationships while you're traveling, go ahead and create a profile on a dating website in the country where you'll be heading. And what that will do for you is it'll give you an opportunity well beforehand to communicate with some of these people. And you can get a really good feel for people just from a few back and forth messages. If they're out to scam you, if they're out just to get money from you, you'll probably be able to identify that pretty quickly. And you'll also be able to find out if you actually have mutual interest in each other. So I think that online dating sites are a great resource for initially getting to find out who you might be interested in. And if you go that route, then once you arrive in country, you have the opportunity to meet these people, but already you have some idea of who they are. And likewise, they have some idea of who you are. So I think that's a great thing. And a lot of these sites are completely free. Of course, some of them do charge a small fee to be able to message back and forth a certain number of times per month or whatever the case may be. But usually those fees are fairly nominal. And often you can even bypass them by contacting the person you're interested in and sharing your personal email address or even a secondary email address you've created just for this purpose if you want to be a little bit safer. But anyway, the long and the short of that is I definitely recommend getting your profile out there ahead of time, talking to some people, and those could be the first people that you meet once you get into country. Dinner, drinks, coffee, whatever. You have the opportunity to meet up with these people with a grounded basis of knowing a little bit about who they are, what they're looking for, and a little bit more comfort. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, once you are in country and dating, I fully recommend that you be safe. And by safe, I don't just mean use protection if things are going to get amorous, which that's a given. There's some really bad diseases out there, so definitely recommend that you take every precaution. But that's not my point. My point is, in being safe, is learn the etiquette of behavior for relationships before you arrive in country. Let me give you an example with that. So, like here in the U.S., it is not uncommon or unusual to hold your date's hand. Even on a first date, it's not uncommon to reach out and try and hold their hand while you're walking from place to place. In some countries, that's seen as offensive. Any form of physical touch, especially on a first date, can be considered very offensive and disrespectful. So know the etiquette of your culture that you're traveling to and be prepared to behave accordingly. The last thing you want to do is disrespect someone. So, keep that in mind. But also on the concept of being safe, keep in the back of your head, I wouldn't say be, a pessimist that's expecting the worst, but I would say keep in the back of your head that there are bad people out there that will do bad things. So, my advice, if you're going to go out on a date, especially for the first time with someone you meet in a foreign country, do it at a public location. Meet somewhere neutral with a lot of people around. And then don't ever go back to their place or invite them back to your place. There's just way too many horror stories out there of where people wake up the next morning and whoever they brought home is gone, along with most of their belongings. And you don't want that to happen. So don't go home with them. don't bring them to your home. If things are getting a little heated and you want some private, personal time, it's usually not that expensive to find a hotel to stay at for the night. And that's your safest bet. Now, obviously, down the road, if you've dated several times, you've gotten to know them a little better, maybe you've met some of their friends or some of their family, and you feel comfortable enough, then that's different. Even in that scenario, if you do bring them back to your place, wherever you're staying, hotel, apartment, whatever your accommodations are, I highly recommend that you keep your valuables and your critical documents locked up, either in a hotel provided safe or in your own personal lockbox of some sort, but don't leave them available. Now, I'm not saying that just everybody is going to spike your drink and try to get you pass out and rob you blind, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So at least until you get to know them on a very, very personal level, I would take those precautions. So the long and the short of it for this video is, we all, like I said, we all need contact and we all need companionship. And no doubt in your travels, you are going to want to develop friendships, and you may well want to develop romantic relationships. And my only suggestion for that is two things. One, do your work in advance to start developing those now before you leave. And two, once you are there and you're trying to, weed out these relationships, take every precaution, be super safe. But also, on a final note, be super respectful. You got to remember, when you're traveling abroad, you're representing not only yourself, but you're also representing your country, wherever you may be from. So if you behave like a disrespectful idiot, then the impression you're going to leave behind is that everyone from your country is a disrespectful idiot. If you show a little bit of class, that you've tried to learn some of their language, so for basic communication and, out of respect, if you show that you know a little bit about the etiquette and the practices in their culture, if you behave like a gentleman or a gentlewoman, depending on your gender, then you're not only going to reflect well upon yourself, but you're going to reflect well upon your country of origin. And for me, I really think that's a big thing. It's a big thing regardless of whether or not a relationship actually develops, friendship or otherwise. But it's a big thing to leave people abroad with a good impression of you and your country. So for what it's worth, those are my thoughts on relationships when traveling abroad. And we'll see. I definitely will be sharing more when I get to Vietnam. And should I be lucky enough to form some good friendships or some romantic interests, you will definitely find out about them. Because as I've said before, my blog and my video posts are uninhibited, unbiased, and they're a holistic approach at the good, the bad, the ugly of traveling abroad to teach English. So we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.